Good morning, everyone. For those of you on here who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Adius with the Infinity Group, so the Daily Group and Health Team. And we are super, super stoked to be here talking about barbecue today.
Yay.
Naturally, I have the barbecue expert, Steve Coddington, Bubba himself in Michigan, joining me. And before we dive into what you guys really want to know about, which is how to make the best ribs for this Monday, and hopefully Mother Nature won't be drunk on Monday and she'll give us warm weather. Just had a couple details I wanted to cover because that's what I like to do. First and foremost, a huge thanks to everybody who's joining us today virtually, or will be watching this later when we send it out to our clients. I hear what Justin's saying down there. Thank you, everyone, whether you're a client, an affiliate, a vendor. We wouldn't be a company, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Thank you, Alexis, for taking care of this for me. We wouldn't have the clients like you who are joining us right now who trusted us with such a huge decision to buy or sell their house. We wouldn't have these brands, we wouldn't have these opportunities, we wouldn't be able to do the fun things that we're doing right now. So thank you so much. We can't say that from the bottom of our hearts. Also, a huge thank you to our #1 sponsor from today, which is Mortgage One. We are so lucky to have affiliate vendors like them who, just like clients, aid in giving us a smooth process, contributes to events like this, and help the wheel go round. So we're very, very thankful. So we're here to talk about barbecue, and this is a class. I've seen Bubba teach this in front of people where they're actually here with us for years. This will be a little different because we're doing it virtually. But just like any class, it is better when the participants ask questions. Bubba knows tons about barbecue. He knows tons about smoking, but he doesn't know what you know. So as we're doing the class, there is a chat function. If you look at the bottom of your screen, drop any questions you have in there throughout the class. Myself and Alexis, we will be monitoring them, and at the end, we'll be reading them out loud for everyone. And I don't even necessarily have to read your name out loud, so there's no dumb questions. Just drop them down there. It can be private to us, it can be to the whole group, and we'll read them at the end. And then, I guess without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to my friend Bubba here, and he's going to teach us all about ribs.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming out, Stephanie. Looking forward to doing my first webinar class. Good morning, everybody. Hope we're all doing good this morning.
Woo!
We're all muted, so I can't really hear what they're saying, right? So we're just going to keep on chit-chatting. My name is Steve Bubba Coddington. I go by Pitmaster Bubba. Why is that? Because Pitmaster Steve sounded kind of lame, so Pitmaster Bubba sells a lot more food. I've been doing this. I've been a professional pitmaster, per se, for about 13 years now. When the economy went to crap in 2008, I was out of work for 2 years. Couldn't leave town. My wife had a great job, so we decided to stay in Michigan. My passion at the time was backyard barbecue. Cooked for a lot of friends and family, so I took that, bought a trailer, converted it into a mobile kitchen, and started selling barbecue on the side of the road in 2009. Led the different various, I had chances to cook at different restaurants. I've opened a lot of barbecue restaurants in Michigan. And this year, finally, after COVID and going through everything else, I've been able to open up my own mobile trailer. I figured this was the best way to move forward with things that are going on. So my love and passion for barbecue, we're going to try to share with you guys and show you how to do some ribs. Sounds
Awesome.
good? Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good.
So everybody has their barbecue kit today. I know some of you might be doing this with me. We're going to do I'm going to take a couple racks of ribs, show you how to do. We're going to show you how to trim them, how to prep them for cooking, the actual cooking process, and then we'll go through some questions and at the end of it, and hopefully have some fun today. So I'm really more of an interactive, so I'll just keep talking to myself. You guys ask your questions later. We'll go through this. I'll try to go nice and smooth, and hopefully everybody can see what they're going on. You all have your little thing above as well, I hope. We're going to be using this today on our ribs. So what we're going to start with is a little bit of rib 101 anatomy.
Yeah.
If you want to leave it there, we'll go from there. So what I have in my hands here is you can see this is a full rack of spare ribs. Okay, this is about 4.5 5-pound rib. The reason I buy these sometimes is the price is a lot cheaper than buying them pre-cut and pre-trimmed. And as I'll show you when we're done prepping these, you'll end up with a lot of extra little bits. There's nothing goes to waste on these rack of ribs. When we're done with that, what they'll end up looking like is what I call a St. Louis cut spare rib. The reason we cook them down to this, the main reason we cook them down to this is one is they look good, they fit in the box nicely, they cook evenly, and we get even flavor throughout. This makes for a nice rib. Not that there's anything wrong with spares. Cooking full spares are amazing too. I like to cook these at home. The other rib that we don't have with us this morning is the baby back rib. If you follow through your paperwork, the difference between spare rib and the baby back rib is the baby back ribs comes higher up from the backbone. It has less internal fat in it. It's more meaty. Think of pork chops, tenderloin, center cut loin, something like that. That's where your baby backs would come from. Spare ribs come from further down towards the belly. Actually, if you were to, when they cut this off, what they're trimming off of here is the actual belly meat. So within this part of the rib, you're going to have a lot more fat. You're going to have a lot more intramuscular fat going through. So to me, I actually think these are meatier. These have, I think, better flavor because there's more fat. Everybody knows fat is flavor. And they cook up nicer than a baby back, and they hold better than a baby back. So that is the difference. Baby backs to spare ribs. So what we're going to do now is take this spare rib. I'm going to show you guys how to trim this up into a rack of St. Louis ribs.
We could call them St. Clair Shores.
St. Clair Shores ribs, right? Just going to move this down to our cutting board a little bit. Can you guys see that? Are you checking it out? Yeah. Different here, but so we'll start turning these over. On the back side, you have membrane on the back. This is the skin. We'll take that off. This little bit of meat under here, I call the brisket. This again, all this stuff, you don't have to do any of this. You could buy this rack of ribs, rub it down, throw it on a smoker, cook it, and this will be wonderful. But for a beginner, we're going to trim this up. I'm going to show you how to get a cheaper rack of ribs from this cut, and then we'll have all these leftover pieces you can trim up. We call them cooked snacks. Some of it is just garbage, but so what I like to do is we're going to remove this brisket meat first. I just kind of lift it up, and we're just going to shave it across the belly. Sharp knife helps, obviously. And again, all we're trying to really do is get a uniform thickness on this rib. Put that on the side. As you'll see, as you lift this up on the wider part, that'll come in good there. We have what we call the chine bone. This is part of where the breastbone comes together up in front here. Sorry. If you feel across the top of the rib bones, there's a natural separation where that bone comes into the rib bones. There's actually a line there of just cartilage. What we're looking to do is I like to make a line with my fingers, and then I can just follow the knife right through that. You'll see if you find it right, there should be no, well, you got to go through a little bit of pressure. The sharp knife comes right through. What you get is that little bit of cartilage there. There's a big chunk of bone on the end there. Excuse me for a second while I turn this off. So gas.
We're gonna pause while Baba
sorry, guys.
the gas situation.
I had the stove on. It was cold in here this morning.
Okay,
Oh, it's all good. All right, so now we've got this this is actually a good looking rack of ribs here, but we want to, in order to make these St. Louis cut, we want to trim these down the side here. So again, follow the top of the bones. It's going to have a natural separation where the cartilage and ligaments are coming in. If you follow that across your fingers, you can sort of feel the separation. And again, I just make a line with my fingers, and it gives me an idea of where I'm going to cut them ribs. So again, sharp knife. I'm not really trying hard. I'm just going to follow that line through. And as you see, you can go through. It'll pretty much, if you hit it in the right spot, you almost won't even hit any bones. A little bit of crunch in there. But again, so what we just took off was basically the rib tips. These sell in Chicago. There's some cartilage, a little bit of bone in there, but this is some amazing meat. This is raw. You're going to get some really good flavors. Take this, chop it up into pieces, throw it on your grill, cook it with your ribs, and as the bones start pulling back, you can just nibble on them for a snack. They're fantastic. So what we're left with now, see how we're starting to take shape? Got our rib. Starting to look like that St. Louis. Turn it over. A lot of this I've learned in competition too. We try to make the ribs, again, even for cooking. We want them to look nice for turn-in. I don't do this on every rib, especially when we're trying to sell, because vending, every piece counts. But for a home cooked rib, I want them to look pretty. Your average rib will have 11 to 14 bones in it. When you go to the store and buy one, you should find at least 12, maybe a 13th bone on these sometimes. Sometimes you get a long rack with 14 bones, but the last 2 bones are so small, they're almost not worthwhile. So this little end here, kind of thin, nothing wrong with it, but again, we're just gonna clean it up. I find the last bone. There's the last full bone right there. I'm just gonna trim this up. I'm just gonna square it off, take that little flap off again. Again, this will be fine if you're cooking at home, but it also get dried up and kind of chewy. So we got them, got a nice square edge on both sides. I'm gonna remove a little bit of this just extra fat. This stuff on the outside doesn't do anything for flavor. It doesn't even render off that well. Again, I don't do this to every rack of ribs, but if you're gonna do them at home, you know you're gonna show off to your friends, might as well make them look pretty. Okay, so got a pretty good looking rack. On this end here, a little bit of fat. This fat is just gonna cook up and bubble off anyway, so I'm gonna trim it off a little bit. Again, I'm going to show you guys. I want to make these look really pretty. So this last bone is going to dry up. There's literally no meat on it anyways. So again, I'm just going, I want to show off to my neighbors. I want everything to look good. So I'm just getting rid of some of these little thin pieces. How's everything looking so far, guys?
Really good.
Yeah. All right. So that side's cleaned up good. So removing the membrane. This is hardest thing to do. I personally, I used to cook 60, 80 racks a day. We did not remove the membrane. The way I cook them in a restaurant with the amount of moisture we use and the time and the way they're held, the membrane literally almost dissolves. You can almost chew on it in your mouth and it'll melt. Cooking at home, you're in a rush, you're not giving it the same amount of time. We're going to remove the membrane. It helps the flavor penetrate into the back. You rub, and it'll actually cook off some of this fat in the back so you don't get so much greasiness on the back side. So easiest way, you can see it's like a piece of skin running right across. It only runs up underneath into this trimmed area here. I have easiest way to do it. Simple. Take a napkin or a paper towel. You can see where I cut there. There's a little bit of skin hanging off. I haven't done this in forever, so hopefully it comes off the first time. You can grab a hold of the corner and start. Let me see if it pulls off. There we go. If you work that down, can you guys see that? Okay, see how I've got it peeling off now? Just grab hold of it with that. You peel it right on down. So that removes that little piece of nasty, sometimes tough. Like I said, if it's not cooked with a ton of moisture, they get pretty ugly. Little strip left over there. what you end up with now is, you guys see that? The back's clean. There's no membrane on the back. Most of the fat's all trimmed down to equal thickness. This side of the rib, again, kind of rectangled off. All extra fat removed. Again, kind of nice thickness here. So what you're looking for in buying ribs too, also, when you're looking through the cryovac, we're looking to have a little bit, we're looking for the nice red meat, straight bones. This always makes it nice when you're slicing, but again, not important. This has some nice fat in it. This is nice soft fat. All this fat will melt off and help make this rib moist, more moist. Sometimes you can see when they've trimmed too tight to the bones, you'll get what we call blowout, or I can't think of the word I'm looking for now, but you actually see the bone right here. I can almost see the bone sticking through, but not a big deal. If these were for show or a competition and I had the bone sticking out, I wouldn't use them because they're not going to be very pretty when they're done. But other than that, so again, we're talking about shopping for ribs a little bit. These came in a 2-pack cryo. You saw how big they were before. Price on ribs right now is ridiculous. They're almost at $4 something a pound, maybe $5 a pound when they're natched. The normal price would be about $2.59. So ribs are up right now. It's kind of crazy.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why are the prices of ribs going up right now? Only because we see that prices of houses going up.
COVID,
right now.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything COVID.
Just longer to get the shipments.
Yeah,
Delays,
yeah. Oh, they're still short staffed from last year. The numbers are still short from being down last year. And now that everybody's getting back to it, the restaurants are opening. All these trucks are popping up. Everybody's cooking ribs. It's 4th of July coming up. There's a huge, massive influx for it.
So high demand, low inventory.
High demand, low inventory is pretty much everything barbecue right now. Ribs are this actual rack of ribs. So this, I would usually pay $6 for a rack of ribs. I think I paid $13 for this. So you got to expect me trying to turn it around. I haven't raised my prices. I'm not hardly making anything when I cook ribs anymore. So I do them because they're good. They're part of my combinations, and people love them. You got to have ribs. So we're talking about, this came in a 2-pack cryovac. You can buy spare ribs already trimmed like this. They'll come in a 2 or 3-pack. They'll come in individual packs. What you're looking for in a cryo pack is, for one, try to buy fresh ribs. Obviously, fresh ribs are always better. I'm going to tilt this up for a little FaceTime. Yeah, so fresh ribs are better than frozen, but there's nothing wrong with frozen also. If you're looking for, again, when you're looking for a cryovac, you're looking for it to be tight, the bag tight. If it's poofy and got bubbles in it, the cryovac has failed and the meat is probably going to spoil. So we don't want to buy that. The nice thing about the cryovacs is you can see what you're looking through. So you can see if the bones have good meat on them, if you have a nice fat. If the bag has a ton of liquid in it, if you pick it up and it's just full of red liquid, probably pass on that. Again, it's either mishandled. It's probably an okay rib, but there's a good chance that it was mishandled. Frozen ribs that have sat and thawed will be full of that liquid. It's basically just water coming out of the product. But look for a cryovac bag that's tight, doesn't have any holes in it, is solid, and hopefully is fairly dry inside. All right, back to our ribs. How are we looking so far, guys?
Great.
Yeah, everybody's still hanging in with us?
Learning lots.
Learning lots. All right. So we're gonna take our racks here. We're gonna get them seasoned up. Everybody has their jar of Bubba's rub. This is a rub that I've been perfecting since, well, I started playing with rubs back in 2008. I made several versions, went through the different restaurants that I worked at, and finally came up with this version of my rub. I believe we actually gave you guys the recipe. So it's not a secret. It's just the way you put things together is really how the flavors come out. This is a sugar-based rub. A lot of sugar. Use turbinado sugar instead of brown sugar because it keeps it more of a drier product. Salt, pepper, a little bit of cumin, paprika for color, garlic, and probably some white sugar. It's all about being sweet. So I missed that. It's so good. All right. Start with the backside. Just gonna put a little rub in the backside. You can use it right out of this bottle. This little shaker is probably enough for probably 2 racks. Doesn't need to go on heavy, but at the same time, you want a good amount of rub sticking on it. So rub it in a little bit. Who made this rub stuff? This is good.
Alexis made the rub, actually.
Good
She did
job,
it all together.
Alexis. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Yeah.
It does still.
Backside, got a pretty good coat. Flip it over. So you'll see a lot of people, I'm sure there's gonna be questions about putting a slather on. Slather is mustard, could be oil. Actually, these people use mayo. I actually have a slather mixture of Worcestershire and mustard and hot sauce that I use. It's not a secret. It's not really adding any flavor to it. It's just a thing I like. It works good. We'll put a really, actually, let me grab it. If you have, this again is another competition trick, but these ribs have been out for a little bit. They're not really tacky anymore. They're not a lot of the rub. The rub's sticking on the backside, but if you get the rub and the ribs, you're doing a few racks and they get a little dry on you. I've got this. I call it meat glue. It's really just Worcestershire, little mustard. We'll put just a little bit on there.
So when if they're getting a little dry, you want to use that just to make it stick.
This is what they do, and this is part of the business. So what that does is it just makes it a little bit wet, a little bit tacky, and it'll help this rub stick on there. So it doesn't leave any mustard flavor. There, you don't taste the hot sauce. You don't even, well, I don't know if the Worcestershire leaves any flavor or not, but yeah. Get a nice sprinkle. Wind's blowing it all off. Chunks of brown sugar in there, yummy. All right. As you see, that holds on the rub really nice. So a little bit. All right. Got our ribs trimmed. They're rubbed. Doesn't hurt to do this step. Let them sit while you are going out and starting up your grill. This would be a good time. Let the seasoning set in a little bit. It gets tacky. Brings a little bit of moisture up. It knows the salts are starting to work into it. And it'll help you build up what we're looking for is that layer of flavor or that bark on the outside of the rib. So we're just going to clean up here a little bit.
If you had to let them sit for an optimal time, how long would that be?
The time it takes for me to start up the pit and get them warmed up.
Okay.
30 minutes, 45 minutes. I've done this overnight, as long as there's not a lot of salt in the rub. We could do this. We could make this an overnight rub. Talk a little bit. We can talk a little bit about pits afterwards. Everybody's got a different pit, and every pit is different. As far as cooking ribs goes, a couple different ways of doing it. I think one of the last pages you have a 3-2-1 method. That's a method that's derived from the competition cooking world. What it means is you're cooking your ribs on the grill at a temperature of 225 degrees for 3 hours. Put them on. That's maintaining a temperature of 225, which most smokers are pretty easy to do that. You leave them on for 3 hours. Don't touch them. Don't look at them. Just let them go. At the end of that time, you take them off. The 2 and the 3-2-1 method is foiled. So what we'll do is, I want to actually show you guys. I think we'll actually go right through the steps. So I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. Give me 1 second. we should go through the wrapping steps. I'm gonna cook those later, some nice snacks.
So maybe I'll ask the question while you're cleaning up,
Please
just to
do.
keep it fun.
Yeah.
We had a question about, does leaving the rub on overnight make it more flavorful? Are there pros to that versus the 30-minute one?
So like I said, if you don't have a lot of salt in your rub, this rub is more of a sugar-based rub. Yes, leaving it overnight, again, it'll help bring some of the moisture out. It'll start making a tacky exterior, and it'll help build the bark, which is what you're looking for in ribs. Bark is like a crusty exterior where all the seasonings and the moisture comes together, and it's not like crispy hard, but it'll make the surface up. That's where all your flavor is going to be, your barbecue flavor. If you have a salty rub with a lot of salt in it, I should say, and you leave them overnight, what can happen is the salt will penetrate and almost start curing your ribs, and you could end up with what stores call an enhanced rib or salty rib. It almost tastes more like a ham. So if you like hammy ribs, go for it. They never really fall off the bone. They'll always be a little tougher. So watch as far as rubbing it overnight.
And how long is too long to let your rub sit?
Probably 12 hours. Again, you're going to start curing your ribs. Yeah, I wouldn't go any more than 12 hours. But like I said, probably the ultimate time is 45 minutes to an hour. While your smoker's getting warmed up, it's a good time. All right, so we're into we talked about the 3-hour part. You guys got your ribs on, cooked them 3 hours. We're going to take them off at 3 hours. Several ways of doing this. We're going to continue with 3, 2, 1. Then I'm going to show you another process. Can you hand me that roll of foil behind you there, please? So we've got our 3 hours in. Our smoker's running at a nice 225 still. Flip a roll of foil. Take it back down here on the cutting board a little bit. It's all hanging in there. All right.
So are we wrapping this raw before we put it on the grill?
No, these ribs are, so let me take one. Actually, I have the magic of TV. Oh, look, they just took these off the grill. Oh, yeah, they're nice. Right? All right. These are cooked ribs. These are ribs I'm actually going to heat up later on and eat for myself. But let's say they just came off the smoker. These have been in for 3 hours. They got a nice color on them. These are probably a little darker than what you would have because these are completely cooked. But let's say these were cooked for the 3 hours. You got your color. You got a nice bark. If you can see what I'm talking about. These look a little dry right now because they're cold. But see how the bones have pulled back? About a ½ inch. That means we have rendered out the fat in the ribs. The meat is starting to shrink up on the bones. Again, these are actually a done rib, but your ribs also will look similar to this at 3 hours. You'll probably still be able to pick them up. There's not going to be a whole lot of flex in them. What we're going to do at this point is wrap them in foil. You want to put them meat side down. Now, you can leave them just like this, wrap them up for the 2 hours, throw them back in the pit. This is a good time to add a little more flavor also. I want to keep it down here. So I have this is my barbecue sauce. A lot of guys will put in a little bit of some pats of butter. That's going to melt. It's basically just oil. Doesn't add a whole lot, but it'll add some moisture to the meat. A little bit of apple cider, or even just plain old apple juice. A lot of guys use soda, different things. I prefer, when I do them, is my barbecue sauce. This is thickened. I haven't really thinned it down at all. So this is going to give me enough moisture when this melts. It'll help keep the ribs tender, and it'll actually add some more flavor because we're saucing the ribs early. I'll wrap them up. Again, we're going to keep that meat side down so the meat can lay in the moisture. Your ribs will look like this. Simple little foil packet. I got the barbecue sauce on the bottom, or you could have had the apple juice. little apple cider vinegar, whatever you want to put in there. Competition guys would have laid in there. They would have put down a drizzle of honey, pats of butter. What else did they put in there? Some hot sauce, some of their barbecue sauce, some more rub. They're just trying to build up a ton of flavor.
So the foil step is where you can go crazy
Yeah,
and
you
put
could.
your signature take on
Yes, exactly. Once you
Okay.
get used to this, this would be a good spot to put your signature take on. You could put it, like I said, any flavor you want to add. So we're going to take these at this point, put them back on a smoker, still running at 225 for 2 hours. So this, again, this 3-2-1 method is based on your smoker running 225 degrees. If you're running 250, 275, they're going to be overcooked. At the end of that 2 hours, you're going to take them out of the foil. I have one for you.
the other fridge. I see the stages of how the fridges go.
Right? Hot box.
Yes.
So here's a rack. We've been cooking these for about 5 hours now at that 225 rate. I prepped these this morning the same way I prepped these. Again, they had the sauce in them. They're open them back up. And you can see your magic of TV.
Those look so
Yeah.
good.
So these are the ones the girls are gonna eat today. So this is after my 2 hours. I've got a nice, again, the color might be darker than you would normally get. These have had a lot of smoke on them because they were already cooked once, but I'm using these for model. You see how the sauce is giving them a really nice moisture. My bend is almost exactly where I want it to be. Well, so you see that crack? It starts cracking in a bone like that. When you hold it in your hands and it just wants to lay over your hands and almost start cracking, it will start cracking on the top. This rib is actually done. Your ribs after 5 hours could be at this point. You want to take them out of your smoker, unwrap them, and actually use your hands. Some guys use tongs. I've been doing this long enough where it's just, I like holding it in my hand. If it stays up stiff, you're gonna need a little more time. That's what the last hour is. You can adjust that last hour from 30 minutes to 45 minutes to the full hour, whatever it might be. So again, took mine out of the foil. Yours will probably still be a little bit on the under tender side. You're gonna take them at this point. You can add another layer of sauce. Maybe you just had apple juice in them at the time. This is where you want to put them back on the smoker. Brush on a little more sauce. Excuse me 1 second. Should have this ready.
And you're putting them back on the smoker unfoiled.
Yes.
So we go unfoiled or we go unfoiled, foiled, unfoiled.
Yeah, so there is one question of, is there anything special that we do the first time you put it in the smoker?
No.
Is there anything?
No.
Just
So
exactly like
yeah.
it looked right there.
for the first 3 hours, we just had them rubbed and rested. Remember, that's when we put them on the
Yep.
smoker for
Yeah.
3 hours. That at that point, they're going to build up their flavor in their butter. So
So smoke for 3 hours unwrapped, then wrap in foil with barbecue sauce or your other
yep,
flavor
Soda, crazy
profile,
yep, for 2 hours.
and then back in the smoker for 2 more hours.
Yes.
And now we're on to the next
Yeah.
step.
So at the end of the 2 hours, you take them out, we unwrap them. Mine already have sauce on them. Maybe you just use a little apple juice. Maybe you want to add a little more moisture. Put your sauce on, put on your glaze, whatever you may call it. These will go back in the smoker for anywhere from, like I said, it all depends on at this point of the tenderness. If they're still stiff, you're going to want to put them in for 45 minutes to an hour. If they're like this, where you just want to set that sauce, like I said, we're looking for that crack. I would put these back in probably 15, 20 minutes with a glaze of sauce on them and they would be done. Save these for a minute. Give me 1 second while I wash my hands. Any questions? You wanna ask a question?
One question that came up earlier, and I think you answered it, is the debate about the skin, no skin, membrane. Like, I know I have an aunt who smokes ribs my whole life, and like,
Yes.
we don't talk about it because it's caused fights at our house.
So I showed you guys how to skin them. I am a non-skinner by trade, whatever that means. Again, I do so many racks of ribs. It would take me forever to skin them off. Little electric cookers that don't produce a lot of moisture, even gas cookers, if you have a small gas cooker at home, it can make that skin a little bit like paper almost, or rough. Some people just don't like the texture of it. Again, I cook my ribs. I've been doing it long enough where that skin basically just melts away. So I prefer leaving the skin on. Reason being is that layer of fat that's underneath there, I want to keep that in. It adds moisture and flavor to my rib.
But you have the right equipment too to help put the moisture in there.
Yeah. I have a professional pit. It's a lot easier to keep that moisture level where you need it to do that kind of job. So that was the 3-2-1 method. Again, quick rundown. Prep your ribs, rub them, get your temperature at 225. That's what this is really for. If you're going to run 250 or 275, just adjust your timing. Only go 2 hours cook, maybe an hour and a half in foil, maybe only a half hour unfolded. Basically, it all comes down as we're looking for that tenderness. So when I cook my ribs, I don't wrap in foil. Again, we're doing 30 racks, 60 racks a day. It costs me a fortune to wrap them. I run my ribs at 275. I have a gas smoker, but it runs on wood. It's a commercial pit, Old Hickory CTO. Show a picture of it when we're done here. I run my ribs at 275, untouched. I don't spray, I don't baste, I don't look at them. I know exactly in 3 hours that they're going to be within 15 minutes of done. So I set a timer, 3 hours, I walk away, I come back and I start doing that lift test with my hand. I check every single rib. Some ribs will be done at that point. Some may need 15 minutes, some may need an hour. It's all depends on the thickness, the age of the animal. A lot of things go into that. So there's no perfect way to explain it. The reason we use the 3-2-1 is it's a good timing. It's a really good base. The worst case you're going to do is overcook your ribs, which means they fall off the bone, which most people like anyways. I prefer a little bit of tug on my ribs. So when I bite into it, I don't want it to slide off the bone. I just want that bite that I took to come off the bone clean. To me, that's a perfectly cooked rib. You're still going to have a ton of moisture in it. It's going to be super tender and it's going to have great flavor. But like I said, worst case that happens is your bones slide out. So what? You got to overcook. They're not overcooked by anybody's rule. It's just the way they are. They're going to be easier to eat. It's not a big deal. The worst thing to have is an undercooked rib, and you'll know it when you take a bite. If you have to use your teeth and pull, and it doesn't come off the bone, those ribs are undercooked. There's no reason to have that with all the steaming and everything else that we can do with them. So
what I hear you saying for the 3-2-1 method is it's a good rule of thumb, but like any, I'm a big baker at my house. We follow the recipe, but then I learned the tricks from my oven heats up faster than this recipe book follows because I've made the same cake, and we're gonna be real, it's my daughter who makes the cake now. She knows that we need to pull it out 5 minutes sooner, but we only know that from doing it repetitively.
It's
so you just
basically
put some feel into it.
Yeah, basically the bottom line is after that 2 hours, you're going to be able to feel that rib. Again, you're looking for it to be loose in your hand. If it's stiff and springy, it still needs time. That's about the best way I can say it. If you hold it in your hand and it almost wants to go limp in you, you got a perfect rib. Let's see, this was we got these. So again, with the 3-2-1 method, say you are cooking baby backs. I do baby backs once in a while when I get them on special. I do love to cook them for something different. My customers love them too. The baby backs we talked about, they're meatier and they have less internal muscular fat in them. Very lean. So the same process can be achieved, but we're taking that 3-2-1 and we're automatically going 2-2-1. It doesn't take as long to break down because there's less fat in them. So for a baby back rib, again, 225, try the 2-2-1 method. Works really good. And then if you don't want to wrap them, if you think you need to add extra flavor, my favorite, I just like putting them on the grill and letting them go till they're done. You can cook them directly on, say, a Weber grill. You can even do them on a gas grill. Put your gas on the right side, set it up so you get about a 250 temp. Put your ribs on the left side where there's no flame going. You have an offset smoker.
When you're doing this, do you need to flip the rib or do you leave them in the same position the whole time?
So in the smoker, you don't have to flip. If you're doing it on a grill or something, yeah, you may want to. A lot of guys will spritz their ribs. I personally put them in. I leave them alone. Spritzing is a good way to build up a little more bark. Smoke attracts the moisture. That's part of the reason that we put that glue on. It gives a little bit of moisture to the outside of the rib. And another reason that we like to leave the ribs out and let them rest. Soak in that, like I said, let the salt bring a little bit of moisture to the top of the rib. So
I have a question from the audience. What about a smoke tube? Using a smoke tube on the grill for offset?
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
So a smoker tube, obviously you guys have seen it, maybe not. It's literally a small tube. It's got holes in it. You can fill it with, I believe you use pellets is the best thing for it, or even sawdust. And you light one end of it. What it does is it smolders. It burns through those pellets, just like you're using a pellet cooker, and it'll smolder the wood. And you can set it over your gas on your gas grill, and it'll give you basically a barbecue effect.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's like you're getting that wood flavor without having.
So you're not using charcoal and wood chunks or wood chips, or using a smoker that accepts wood chunks or actual wood.
Nice little
I've cooked a lot of ribs on a grill, and they've come out pretty good. You're not going to get that smokiness, and maybe not the exact same melted meat tenderness, but it can be done fairly well. Awesome.
We also had another question, just to clarify, for the 3-2-1, you're cooking at 225 for that whole process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If you go, like I said, if you take the 3-2-1 and bump it up to 250 or 275, your ribs are going to be.
You have to shorten your time.
Pretty much done it into 3 hours. If you put them through 2 hours of foil, the bones are going to literally fall out. So if you like to run at 250, like I said, I run my ribs at 275, and I know they're going to be done within 3 hours. But again, I'm trying to get my ribs done for service. I don't like, ribs are the worst proteins that we have as far as reheating. Leftover ribs usually get chopped up into beans, or we try to make a sandwich with them. Or I actually don't. I cook enough ribs where I'm pretty sure I'm going to run out every day, because one, they're expensive. Leftover ribs, you're losing money on them, and they don't reheat very well. So,
do you have any tips for reheating?
Wrap in foil, pretty much like I did. So these ribs were already cooked all the way through. They were leftovers from yesterday. I'm using them as display today. I'm not going to sell them. I'm going to give you guys for lunch, obviously. But if you same thing I did, I put them a little bit of foil. I add a little sauce. I will put them into, you can put them in an oven. You can put them back in your smoker, maybe 15 minutes at 300 degrees, 250 degrees. Slowly reheat them again, and they're going to be almost like a brand new.
Okay.
Yeah. A little dry. You're going to lose a little moisture.
I want to say one of the tricks we used to do at the restaurant was you guys would do the pulled rib, Sammy, like every Wednesday, like clockwork, and you reheat the ribs and pull them off the bone and add a bunch of sauce, and it was good.
It's an amazing product, but
it wasn't what people wanted every day.
We're professionals. I will never sell a reused rib. Some places will, and it's just you gotta have a better standard.
So what about, I know we talked about serving too. Once our ribs are off the grill, what's the best way to serve them?
Yeah. So let's grab that form rack. I'm just walking around.
Did you put it in that box?
Yeah.
We always eating ribs in the microwave. It's like a 5-year-old kid. We just put a wet paper towel over it and called it good.
Sure.
We're like, all right.
But you were putting the moisture back in. So
Yeah,
it's the same
Well,
premise.
yeah, I mean, you had the right idea for sure.
My dad also always baked the ribs. We're very.
All right, guys, we're back with our. Okay, these were the ones we actually reheated, but say these just came out of the foil. We had them on the grill for another 20 minutes. We got our texture exactly where we want them. The moisture should be pretty good on these. Again, this is an old competition trick I use. it's very hard to see where the bones are going end to end. So you're not, most people you see trying to cut in between the bone and hacking away at it. What I like to do is I'll turn them over. And you can see where the bones start, and you can see as they follow through. You can see where the in between the bones are. It's basically what we're looking for, so it's easier to cut. So at that point, we'll just drop the knife in between the bone and just follow through. Been doing this a couple of years and have trimmed about 500,000 racks. Goes through pretty smooth. With any luck, we end up with it looks a little dry on TV probably, but it's tender. Got a nice red ring around it, and if you take a bite of it, it comes off. Comes off clean on the bone. All the meat doesn't fall off. That is breakfast. Trying to get some sauce on Stephanie, so.
I'll leave the other side.
Right?
No shame.
Let me just flip these over for show. Nice little stack of ribs there. So basically, we've gone through, I think we've gone through purchasing, prepping, cooking, serving. What am I missing, guys?
A little sauce talk.
A little sauce talk. Did you guys get? Yeah, did you guys get? Did we give them the sauce thing? So I got some. Yeah, I got some basic barbecue sauce recipes there. I believe you also should have. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure everybody got this sent to them, so if you want to talk through it briefly, and then we'll make sure everyone does that. And I guess, do you need sauce with ribs? I feel like sauce is a political conversation at barbecue.
Well,
some people swear by it. Some people say no sauce.
Yeah, since you brought that up. So I've showed you guys today basically how to do a rib. The reason I sauced them was because, one, they weren't fresh. If I was cooking ribs fresh, my ribs are a dry rub rib. Dry rubbed rib. I don't add sauce to them. I serve sauce on the side. Reason being is I like you to be able to taste the time that I put into making the rub and preparing it. You get that nice smoky pork flavor. Sauce is fantastic on ribs. I actually prefer my rib sauce, but I serve them dry rubbed so that you can make the decision whether you want sauce or not. These look really good here, just sitting here.
Yeah, we did have a question about that red ring.
Okay.
What does that signify, and what else can that be called?
Okay, so red ring we're seeing there. You guys see that? So there's a red ring around the outside. Yep. Call that lipstick barbecue ring because it looks like somebody applied lipstick around. What that is, that's a smoke ring. I rub these, I let them rest a little bit, I put them in my smoker. I use hickory smoke throughout the whole process. I don't rub them. I'm sorry, I don't wrap them. So in that 3 hours, the what's going on is the smoke, proteins from the smoke have attached to the rib. It turns the hemoglobin on the outside of the meat. It gives us that red shape. There's no flavor in that ring. There's it's not a texture thing. It's really just looks. You'll see some guys with a super duper super dark red ring. They probably used pure wood. Some guys will use pellets, and you can't get any of that ring at all. So it doesn't really. It is a sign of a good pitmaster, but at the same time, it doesn't lend. It's just for looks. It doesn't lend anything to the rib. So if your rib is just pink all the way through, it doesn't have that red ring, it's not a big deal. Some guys actually use tenderizing salt, or that's what we're going to use. Anyways, you can put a heavy salt on there and actually soak in, and it'll make that ring, the fake ring.
Oh, because it's like soaking in the pigment from the rub.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, sneaky trick.
Yeah, so we have our ribs.
Do you have a favorite brand of knife or type of knife that you recommend cutting for ribs
So
or meat in general?
yeah, sharp knife. Honestly, I've had these knives. This is a stall. You can get this at like any restaurant supply. This is probably a $20. My biggest trick to a good knife is keeping it sharp. You can use any kind of knife. This knife here is probably a $8 knife. This is one of my favorites. As long as you keep it sharp, it handles nice. You don't need $100 knife. You don't even need a $50 knife. Just anything.
Do you sharpen them yourself, or
I do. I have a simple sharpening tool. I just use a knife sharpener. I don't have anything fancy. You use a stone once in a while. I have a friend that comes over and does them by hand, which is amazing, but they don't need to be done like that. As long as they're sharp, you always want to have a sharp knife. And then I use a steel rod to fine tune it. So you have a sharpening knife. You run it up and down a couple times, takes the birds off, and every time you want to start recooking or do a new process, start cutting or something, just clean it up a little bit. It's my knife hacks 101.
And then your thoughts on someone who really enjoys smoking and not just looking for convenience. Traeger.
so smoker types?
Yeah, smoker types. Let's talk about smokers a little bit. Guys, anybody who has a smoker, I would love to hear what kind they have. We can talk about that a little bit.
We've got a pit barrel smoker.
I
Nice.
think this is a hot topic now.
Yeah, it should be a good topic. So you've heard of Big Green Egg. Big Green Egg is a ceramic smoker. Great unit. It's an all-in-one. It's a grill and smoker. Very expensive. There's a lot of other units out there like it that are cheaper, but Big Green Egg you can cook from 200 degrees. You could cold smoke it. You could do cheese in it from 150 degrees, and you can get that thing up to 800 degrees to do hot and fast steaks and searing. So very nice unit. Any Kamado style or ceramic style cooker holds heat, is very easy to be stabilized to keep your temperature smooth. Those are great cookers. We get into electric pellet cookers, Rectech, Green Mountain Grill. The biggest one everybody probably knows is Traeger. Great units.
Someone said they
Yeah.
had a Traeger, but he's
Nothing
looking
wrong
for
with them.
another one.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been caught dead with one. Now that I've had a couple, I'm getting older. It's kind of nice to go out, push a button, load it up with some pellets, put your meat on, and walk away.
So it's convenient.
It's very convenient. You could do ribs on those. Again, the way my style, you could rub them, put them on, set your temperature 3 hours, and they'll be done. Simple as that. They produce a decent amount of moisture and humidity. I have a. Can we show that one off?
Yeah.
Just for a minute.
We're moving.
I just spin it around. So I have a commercial smoker. It's not huge. So I wanted a small unit that I could fit in my trailer. This is an old hickory CTO. CTO is for convection tri oven. Basically, it's basically a convection oven, but it has a spot to put smoke in or wood. We burn hickory all the time. Got 4 nice racks on it. Like any other, higher you get, warmer it's going to be. Lower it's going to be a little cooler. But the smoke goes in the bottom, travels up through the backside, comes around the top, and it circulates the meat in smoke and heat. There we go. It's pretty cool. So I can load this up. I load this up usually at night, 7 o'clock. And we'll run it overnight. 7 o'clock in the morning, we'll start checking our butts and brisket, stuff like that. Ribs we do in the morning. Sausages we do in the morning. Everything's fresh. But yeah, char griller, old school offsets where you got to start a fire with a base of charcoal and then use wood chunks or wood logs is a great unit. I know some of you guys are probably just cooking on a regular.
We just have a grill.
Yeah, a grill, a Weber kettle grill, 26 or 24 or 26 inches round. You can build a fire on one side. It's called offset fire, and you can grill on the smoke on the other side. So you can use it as a smoker.
We had a question about a pit barrel. What is it called? Oh, never mind. Oh, and about cleanup. How do you clean up these grills and get rid of the ash? What's your?
So the ash I let cool. I put it in. I have an ash dump that I let cool a couple days, and then I'll dump it into my gardens, believe it or not. I'm using good, solid, dry, clean wood. So a little ash in the garden, my wife doesn't mind it. The grease is the biggest thing for me. You guys shouldn't have any grease. A little bit of grease you had, you can put in a bucket and probably throw in your garbage. Cleanup of a grill. I like using the residual heat from the grill itself, and I'll use a ball of foil. I try to stay away from the wire brushes anymore because everybody's heard about the wire brushes sticking and getting on your food, stuff like that. I have some brushes that don't come apart like that, but use your residual heat in your grill and clean it when it's hot. That's the best thing to do. If you let it go and try to re-clean it when it's cold, it's just a bloody mess.
Did you ever reheat the grill if you didn't clean it up when it's hot and then clean it after?
Well, yeah, then what you're going to do is you're going to start your next grilling session and have to wait to clean it up and then clean it. And then you're all dirty before you even start cleaning. So you've cooked all day. Clean it up when you're done.
Gotcha. Like a self-cleaning oven, turn it on high and let it dry.
How many do we end up with today? Quite a few?
Quite a few. Yeah. We've had some people come and go during it. All right. So at this point, Joe
This
said
was
that
awesome. Thanks, Joe. What are you cooking on, Joe? Can we talk? Southern Pride SPK 500. First restaurant I worked at had a Southern Pride in it. I have Southern Pride's a good unit. I prefer Old Hickory, as I've cooked on Old Hickories for the last 10 years on and off. The only reason I prefer it is because I know the unit. I've had to rebuild the units. I know the parts. Everything is very easily accessible to me, but there's nothing wrong with the Southern Pride at all.
We can unmute everyone.
All right, we're
If
gonna
they
throw a
unleash-
wild card and unmute everyone so
If
that
they
Ashley can
unleash
ask all
me.
her questions, or anybody else can.
Yeah, let's ask some questions. I know I kind of different doing it like this. I'm really hands-on. When I do these classes, everybody has their own cutting board, a knife, a rack of ribs. We season, and then you guys wrap them up, take them home, and go put them on your grill. So,
honestly, Steve, it's been awesome. I'm sure there's, in person it's even better, but it's been really good virtual. I've taken a lot of notes, so I really do appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm looking at getting a secondary grill. I've got a Traeger at home right now just for the easy button, but I've gotten more into it, and I really do enjoy it. So I'm looking for something that's maybe not as much of an easy button, if that makes sense, but and maybe it'll produce better results if that's possible.
So yeah, obviously I'm be honest with you. The harder you work at it, probably the better it's going to be. And what I mean by that is, when I started cooking, I started on a little electric smoker, a little red. I'm sure some of you guys have seen them. It's a little red, looks like R2D2, little electric element in the bottom. I swapped that out. I started burning wood chunks on it, and I started cooking brisket until I started making really good brisket. You can use anything. It's really technique. What were we just talking about? Oh, so an offset pit's going to give you the best tasting barbecue. I think the best barbecue in the world comes from Texas. Everybody in Texas is using mostly wood. They're using offset pits, large 1,000-gallon pits, where they cook their briskets, 16 hours. But if you can find yourself what did I call it? A Smoky Joe, anything with a side box that you have to build a fire in the side. It's going to be a little more work, but there's a lot of videos, YouTube videos out there on fire management, starting a fire with charcoal and then just using small splits of wood to keep that fire going and maintaining heat. So one of the biggest tips in barbecue I'll give you is you're maintaining your heat. I kind of cheat because I use an electric gas thermostat. It keeps my heat at one temperature. When you're using an offset, you want to keep that heat even throughout the whole cook. That'll give you your best product. So look for something with a side box that you can build a fire in. Learn fire management, and your flavors and textures it'll blow you away the difference.
I've had an interesting experience. I feel like my electric master belt almost puts more of a smoke flavor into it because I'm using wood chunks than my pellet on the Traeger. Is that just my head, or would you agree with that?
Wood is wood. Pellets are pellets in. Pellets
Yeah,
are
wood.
pressed wood.
Got it.
Natural wood burns. You're using chunks. That's what I changed from when I was using like sawdust and chips. Once I went to chunks, my flavor game totally changed for the better. So pellets are great, but pellets do not give you much of a smoke ring. I think they give a decent smoke flavor, but I'm used to using real wood, so my flavor expectancies are a little higher than most.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for the tips. I appreciate it and your time. Look forward to meeting you coming up.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time at the neighborhood there. Anybody else got some questions, please?
This was awesome. I just have to say, I really enjoyed this, and I would love to take another one of your classes in person.
I would love, so my favorite class is a brisket class. Brisket class is 3 hours. Alcohol is involved for sure. We got to have a beer throughout it, but
yeah, time and place. Just let us know.
yeah, right. Yeah, I think I'm going to set something up here pretty quick, but a brisket class is a lot of fun. Ribs are cool. Everybody needs to learn how to cook ribs, but a lot of people have done that, and the brisket class is a lot of fun. If I can teach you how to cook brisket even close, you're way ahead of most people, most cookers in the world right now.
We have a friend that does chuck roast, and he smokes chuck roasts. He calls it the poor man's brisket. And we had never tried that until a couple years ago, and we're hooked on it. Have you done that?
Yeah, the problem with that is they call it poor man's brisket, but chuck roast costs twice as much as brisket. So it's kind of funny.
It's the rich man's brisket.
I would call it rich man's brisket. So chuck roast is great because the whole cut is fatty throughout. It does cost more money, but you can cook it down, you can cube it up, make burn ends out of it, and it's wonderful because there's fat throughout the whole piece. Whereas a brisket, if you're going to make burn ends, you really only want to use the point. Out of a 16-pound brisket, 14-pound brisket, the point's only going to be 3 or 4 pounds, so you're not going to get a whole lot of product out of it. That's why a lot of people use the chuck roast, and yes, it is amazing.
It's delicious. Well, sign me up for your brisket class. I think that'll be the best date ever for my husband and I.
I'll let Stephanie know when that's going on for sure.
I'm in 100%. This was great. Thanks a lot, Bubba.
I wish everybody was here to taste a rib is all.
Ditto.
Be a lot more fun. Anybody else? Hands up. This is the fun part.
I feel like Doug Crow had some awesome comments. He was asking about Southern Pride SPK 500. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's another model of smoker. I think we talked about that a minute ago. I prefer the old Hickory over the Southern Pride only because I've used them longer and I know the internal workings of them. I can do any repair on it whatsoever. But Southern Pride is also a great smoker. More of a commercial unit though. You won't be buying a Southern Pride unless you're spending probably $5,000 minimum.
Oh, I have an amazing question now. So I'm originally from California, and we do the Santa Maria style tri-tip a lot. Since moving to Michigan, I cannot find it untrimmed anywhere. Do you have any ideas of where I could purchase an untrimmed?
So I can get tri-tip. You can find it in Eastern Market. Yeah, Wolverine Packing has it.
Wolverine what?
Wolverine Packing has it. I mean, pretty much anybody down in Eastern Market can get it. Problem is, it is so expensive right now.
Here, it's expensive. In California, it's the cheapest cut of meat we can get. It's so frustrating.
And you guys ruined it for us. So now they see nobody knows about it up here. I did tri-tip 2 weeks ago, and nobody knew what it was, so hardly anybody ordered it. But the ones that did order it fell head over heels in love with it.
My dad became obsessed with tri-tip. He's cooked it like 5 times in the past.
Yeah. If
I
can find it at a decent price, I have it on I do tacos with it, but I love I'll smoke a tri-tip on a barbecue for, well, you're cooking like a steak, so it's only going to go a couple hours. Very similar to what you're grilling in California over red oak is what they're supposed to use. So you're still applying the wood flavor, but I run it through the smoker and just
we smoked it too.
Yeah, fantastic, right?
We did
but like I said, a lot of people don't carry it around here. Michigan's not known to know what it is. I actually bought some fresh tri-tip off a farmer a couple weeks ago, and he didn't even know what tri-tip is because he gave me the wrong piece.
One of the questions in the chat was, is tri-tip ever called a different name by
No.
butchers, or it is what it like?
No.
Tri-tip is a tri-tip.
specific chunk
Yeah,
of meat.
you'll get,
Yeah.
there's the same cut as there's a ball tip, which a lot of guys will
Yeah.
cut, which is not very good because, yeah, cheesesteaks, there's no
Yeah.
fat in it, so.
I bought it and they had it wrapped in a way that I couldn't see the fat cap, and I purchased a whole bunch of it at an astronomical price, got it home. They had removed the entire fat cap. I literally cried. I was livid.
Yeah, they don't know any difference here.
Heartbreaking. No,
Right.
they don't know what they're doing with it. Okay. Eastern Market and Wolverine Pecking. Here I come.
Yeah, try
Love
any
it.
of those.
No. So any other questions for Bubba at this point, since we've unmuted everyone to the masses? Just keep in mind, we want to say thank you again for joining. We will be having our next client event, so keep your calendars marked on August 14th. This one will be in person. We're going to be doing back to school photos for children, families, adults, you know, no age limit. Come as yourself, come with your family, but wanting to, again, get back to the people who make our company so great. So keep your eyes peeled for August 14th. Super thanks for doing this today, Bubba. This was awesome, like everybody was saying.
I just want to mention, guys, so I am Bubba's Barbecue and Catering. Check me out on Facebook. Please follow my page. So we have a 28-foot rolling trailer is what you're seeing here. This is not a kitchen. It's a trailer we're in today. Luckily, there's lots of room. I'm at the New Baltimore Farmers Market on Sundays. We do Copper Hot Brewing on Wednesdays. We're at Cabela's every other weekend over here in Chesterfield. If you have, like, we're coming out to Joe's neighborhood in a couple weeks. If you have not had a truck in a neighborhood, get your friends and family together and have us come out. It's a great time. We serve hot, fresh food, full-time caterer, and event manager. So if you guys need something in that realm or some catering, let me know. Otherwise, please follow my Facebook page and come visit me sometime. Say hi.
And just quick shout out for Bubba. His prices are very reasonable. So if you're doing a big event, don't think it's going to be something that completely breaks the bank. It's worth exploring.
And I can guarantee you my food is top notch.
I'm going to second that. He's the best.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We appreciate everyone tuning in and can't wait to join you next time. Thanks, Bubba.
Thanks
Thanks
guys.
again, Bubba. Bye, everybody.
Take care, y'all.